Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a long time since we've been preparing to showcase Helena, and I feel like it is a very important topic that we are going to be discussing right now, especially because of the historical context of what a lot of people in our culture, in historical cultures in general, whether it is Russian culture, whether it is Greek culture, whether it is Turkish culture, or any European culture or Asian culture, music is a big part of our culture and society. And that is why I feel like it is a very important topic in understanding people's behavior, their understanding, the way we communicate, the way we perceive each other, and even regardless of whether it is a political or societal issue, we understand a lot of elements through our musical history, because our musical history becomes a way of communicating from past to now and even future. Now, before we begin, I think it is important we try to understand your story a little bit. Looking at your background both as a musicologist and an actor, how has it influenced your perspective on storytelling in music and videos that you make yourself?
Music and acting education complement each other. Acting education helped me to understand some musical works more deeply, and vice versa. Cinema is more understandable for everyone than classic musical. But in fact, symphony or any classical work is a movie in audio format. And when I tell something, I try to find ways to give information in a understandable way. Yes. For example, a movie plot and musical composition are structured similarly. Symphony and film plot consist of certain parts. At least there is introduction, development, culmination, and conclusion. In classical music, one melody can have different transformations, from happy to sad, from calm to aggressive sound. The same happens in movies. Characters experience emotional and psychological changes. And also theater and music share concepts like space, silence, dynamics, and even rhythm. For example, there are special acting exercises aimed at making the actor perform in different rhythms, spaces, and or act silently. They must do something quickly or slowly to create dynamics. For example, it is the same in music. An actor should be able to play well without words, to feel the silence before you start talking. And this is not as easy as it seems. And in music, it's also important to feel the silence between the notes, because silence is like a white canvas on which your pen sounds. The same thing with the space. In classical or any music, you need to think carefully about mixing and understand where and which instrument will sound in the space on the right or left, close or far away, how sounds move in space. And in theater or film, this space also important, but this space is different locations and the movement of actors and cameras. So in general, a symphony or any classical music is like theater or cinema, just in an audio format.
I think that it's a very interesting concept because when I was listening to your perspective right now, it reminds me of like lately I am trying to focus more on cinematic recording, and a lot of videos that I am watching right now to learn more about what cinematic perspective is. It shows more, and the people are describing it more as storytelling. A lot of people tend to make their vlogs or their solo videos, but giving a cinematic view is more of a picture giving 1,000 words than you saying 1,000 words. Considering how a lot of directors are shooting their movies, giving it a different wavelength of a video, of a movie, giving a different dimension to the video. And that I feel is describing exactly what you were sharing right now. And it gives me an idea like how a lot of times, a lot of people, they are not watching the movie, but they are listening to the movie and they are doing something else. But sometimes some sounds capture your attention in a way that you just want to look at them, you know? And sometimes some visuals, maybe the movie itself is boring, but some visuals are so interesting that you just want to watch. You want to look at the image, that what is happening right now only. Maybe the whole movie is very boring, but that image itself is so catchy or attractive that you want to see it for maybe like 1 minute, like, okay, what happened? Because the way the camera angle went in, it was a very interesting perspective. And I think that resembles a lot on how you were sharing, like how people mix a lot of an artist becomes an artist because of this. I believe when a person tends to study any art, regardless of what it is, maybe it's music, maybe it's painting, acting, carving, anything, could be woodwork or anything. It is because it tends to hold certain meaning in their life and an attraction which creates a story which they are trying to tell. How has studying classical music changed your perspective on life, on the modern living, and modern musical trends which you are seeing right now?
I began to appreciate the silence. I almost don't listen music in my free time because I listen to it a lot during work hours, and I really need silence to rest.
So you don't listen to any music at all during your...
No, I listen music, of course, I listen music, but sometimes it's hard to just enjoy music because I start analyzing it. Yes, it's my problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
it comes with the job, right?
Yes, things happen.
Okay, all right. Okay, so...
Okay, I can choose something familiar so that my brain doesn't work and I can enjoy, really I can enjoy.
So what kind of music do you actually like to listen when you're not working at home, just relaxing?
Different music. I can listen baroque, romantic, okay, all classic music and modern music, electronic, K-pop, pop, rap, different. I like different. Yes.
We were talking about political narratives before. Do you think that musicians should separate their work from political narratives, or is it unavoidable for them to take a stance and, just make their music?
I think it depends on how popular the musician is. And I think the more popular he is, the less opportunities he has for this. But on the other hand, I will not be able to name you a single good composer, artist, or poet who did not have any social political position. Because any art is not only about making a beautiful picture or melody or poem. Art is an artistic form of real life, which is associated with philosophy, feelings, and life position of the composer. And this is politics too. Any worker, be it a writer or composer, cannot create breaking away from public life. I feel
that's true.
Yes. For example, many musicians, of course, have also faced government interference. That's not nice, but there was in our history. For example, this was the case with Shostakovich and the Soviet Union, for example. And even after death, your music can be used as a political tool. Yeah. And this happened to Richard Wagner, whose music was used by Hitler. And after that, Wagner's works were often attributed not the best ideas, which are not there. But I must say, Wagner was an anti-Semite, so unfortunately, yes, referred to as a brilliant composer, but a disgusting person. Yes. Okay. And Wagner's work are still in blacklist in Israel.
There's a perspective that Western classical music have more creative freedom compared to those in how media generally portrays a rather politically restrictive environment. Maybe you can call Russia a more restrictive environment or China a more restrictive environment. Even now, Pakistan is being characterized as a more restrictive environment. Lately, there was an incident where one singer was put to jail because of the song that he made, which was against the narrative of the current government. What do you think about situations like this, and why do you think this happened?
Of course, every country has its own limitations in creativity. Somewhere there are more of it, and somewhere there are fewer. Even in countries that are considered free, like America, there are limitations too. In America, it's hardly possible to speak out against minorities without being attacked. And for example, Netflix does not release works without some topics. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. Everyone will decide this for themselves. But I have no answer, but I want to look at it from a different perspective. Yes. And here I would like to quote from the film, The Legend of 1900. The main character there said, okay, look, here the piano. The keyboard has only 88 keys. It's finite. But the music you can extract from these keys is endless. So limitations become a challenge that stimulates our creativity, allows us to focus on the tools that we have and can make the most of it. It helps us to find non-standard solutions. And on the other hand, it often happens that when you have endless choice, you can choose. It's a paradox. I'm not saying that the government bans are good. I just want to say that there are always opportunities for creativity if you want to express yourself. Moreover, it's their limitations that often become an incentive for the growth of creativity. Difficulties give more impressions and reflections to create works than a stable condition, unfortunately. Beethoven went deaf. Chopin was forced to leave his country because of uprising Poland. Shostakovich made music during the terrible war. Many artists lived in poverty. Everyone has their own difficulties, and maybe without this, they wouldn't have become who they are, and we would not have seen many of their works they made expressing their thoughts and pain.
You know, there's a saying, an artist only becomes famous when he dies.
Yeah. It was Schubert. It was Schubert's story.
So if you want to become famous, then you should die.
Oh my God.
Anyhow, I feel like while we were talking about cultures like Russia, China, Pakistan, a lot of Asian culture, a lot of European culture, which is very rich in music and all that. These cultures promote or suppress music in their own specific way. It could be controlled by the society's values, because a lot of these cultures, they are very rich when it comes to their cultural heritage, maybe religious values, maybe it could be political narratives because of the historical context of the regions. because a lot of these regions have a very strong political history. I don't mean to say like a very recent history. I mean to say like historically they have been politically very active since we have been collecting history, I would say. Whether you take it positively or negatively, it plays a huge role in developing societal development. What is your take on how you perceive it plays a role in societal's hustle bustle right now?
I know more information about Russia, and here I think it's not so much the styles of music that are being suppressed are the words that may be in the song. At least in Russia, there are some topics that should not be used in song. If you say about composers, of course, have always been influenced by the social climate and culture of the place in which they lived. For example, Bach's work was influenced by church music, Protestant choral. He was a deeply religious man. Chopin was influenced by Polish folk music, Tchaikovsky by Russian. Jazz as a style would not exist without African folk music. It is relevant now? Yes and no, at the same time. For example, I will always understand Russian culture more clearly than Pakistani, I think, because I was born in Russia. It affects me, and it affects some artists too. We have some groups that base music on Russian folk art. On the other hand, globalization and the internet have made the world a closer place. So we have opportunities to explore other cultures, change our views, and try new things, especially in the context of the rapid development of neural networks. Yes, both approaches have a place to be, but as I said, it seems to me that it's not so much the music that is important as the words. Different styles can be popular and encouraged or banned by the government.
I feel like even though there is a lot of suppression in a lot of countries, but music still plays a huge role in a lot of society's development, especially like before I've lived in Malaysia for a very long time, and I felt like the circle that I had, because I was working in music industry in Malaysia as well, it was a little bit different. When you are in a society, when you are in a circle, you get to attract that kind of people more. So I feel like I was encouraged to see a lot of musicians when I was in Malaysia, which is normal. But when I look at the society as a whole, like walking in the street, walking to the train station, walking to maybe a mall or something, then it's different. Like when I was in Malaysia, the system of how they have developed to promote musicians is different. They have a lot of busking locations in malls where street artists, they're just performing in those locations. Whether it could be a mall, it could be maybe the train station, it could be maybe underground tunnel. And I saw that a lot when I went to Uzbekistan as well. Like they have locations, and a lot of their buildings have promoting some of the artists which the society or the government wants to promote as well. Even when I was looking at a lot of videos about Russia, some of the artists which were classical artists were being promoted by different other artists by playing their music, as you can say, like as remembering the past, So it's more of a dedication to the historical musicians that were in the past. And I have seen a lot of paintings of people who have made paintings of musicians who they find as idols in the historical context. Maybe it is because the artist belongs to their region. It could be that because I was reading in Russian, so I don't understand what is written, but I could relate just a few words that maybe it's a dedication because the person belongs to their region and they belonged in the time when the music inspired people to do some things. So I feel like it builds community's narrative towards something. Now, looking at the individual's perspective, what role do you think classical music plays in developing a person's character and worldview? Also, in younger generation, actually, the interest in classical music, I feel like the interest is on and off. Like some people, you will see like they are really inspired by classical music, but the younger, like a really, really young Gen Z, how you will say, those younger kids are no longer really interested in classical music as classical music, but more of a fusion. What is your perspective on that?
The young generation is often introduced to classical music through modern adaptations from movies, video games, remixes, and samples. In K-pop, by the way, many songs based on classical samples. Okay, and when we think about what classical music can give you, I think you can develop empathy and begin to understand better the people who lived at one time or another and your time as well. If you read just facts and history books, then in works of art, you read people's feelings and thoughts, different art, and also in classical music. These works allow us to look at some things from a new angle, developing empathy and originality. And of course, modern music is more popular than classical music. And I think classical music will not be popular. And I have an opinion on why. Modern music is created for quick enjoyment. Because of this, the tracks focus on one emotion, aggression, or fun, or harm, or anything else. And you can quickly choose a track that will suit your mood and to meet the need in 3 minutes. This is good. This is good, actually, and it's very important in our world sometimes to find solutions quickly. Classical music doesn't offer enjoyment quickly, and it involves complex development with different emotions during 1 hour. Maybe you have no time for this. Why not? And often you don't like a piece from the first listening, and that's fine. Many works are not created for enjoyment, but explore new structures, charts, or even solve mathematical tasks. Sometimes looking at the score is more interesting than just listening. Yes, and classical music requires thought and effort in order to experience real pleasure at the end. This does not meet modern trends when music has one emotion, lasts 3 minutes, and is aimed at entertainment. So classical music will always have fewer listeners, but these are regular listeners. It's like true love and expensive wine. I don't know. Once you try it, you won't be able to refuse. Yes.
Now that you talked about rich wine and rich taste, let's talk a little bit about classical music as a business and how it is evolving now. Do you believe that classical musicians should be more entrepreneurial in today's world, or will it just create a distraction from their artistry?
I want to say my personal story.
Sure.
During my studies, I was outraged that classical musicians don't try to be modern, don't promote themselves. And I discussed this with my teacher who works on the music radio, who is a music critic and make music. He is composer also. He said, I don't need it. I don't want to simplify my... simplify?
Yeah.
Simplify.
Yeah.
Okay, he said, I don't need it. I don't want to simplify my lectures. or music
Composition.
composition for the general audience.
Mhm.
I'm interested in intellectual tasks, even if I have only 3-4 listeners because of this. And after that, I thought we often measure success in subscribers, level of popularity and money, but not everything has to be like that. Each
Yeah.
musician chooses for himself, of course, to become simpler and more accessible, or to follow the tradition while remaining less understandable to a wide audience. And I have my philosophy. The artist's task is to find a balance between the past and present. If we forgot the past, we lose important sources of inspiration and universal meanings. Art should be alive, in tune with the spirit of the times also, so as not to turn into an archaic echo, I don't know, and understandable only to narrow cycle of specialists. It's important to share ideas that touch people now without losing because of trends. The power of art is not in being new, but it's in the ability to awaken feelings and thoughts relevant in any era. Yes.
I think it also depends on the purpose of why any art is created.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
Sometimes the art is created for specific purpose. Like, for example, maybe I am writing music for myself.
Or
Because
advertising. Yes.
or maybe I'm writing music for my partner or somebody I love. Could be my parents, could be my love for the country, or maybe love for something else, or maybe my music is showing my aggression. Maybe it is not for other people, but it is my own frustration that I'm trying to take out. It could be music, it could be even paintings or anything. It's just forms of expression, right? So if that is the purpose, then I agree with your teacher that my purpose of my composition, my writing, my artistry is not for me to make it easy for another person to understand. It is just for me to express myself. But maybe a lot of modern artists, their motive, their intention is to capture as many people's attention as they can. It could be like, okay, they want to be popular, they want to be famous. Maybe it is not wrong. Sometimes
of course.
that becomes inspiration for you. Like, okay, if I have 1 million subscribers because of my music, I would be happy, right? So that becomes your goal.
For sure.
Yeah. So there's no right and wrong. It's what you want.
For sure. Yes.
We were also discussing about artificial intelligence now being integrated in almost every part of the society. What do you think classical musicians face? Do you think that there's a competition with technology, that the music that they could maybe create that took them maybe years to make, now maybe AI can make this in a few minutes?
The situation may resemble what happens to designers, copywriters, and programmers. Less qualified specialists will suffer because AI can do their job better. But professionals will find new opportunities in this. For example, music AI like Suno has already surpassed most beat makers, but so far it does not reach the level of professionals. And I think we have two sides. Of course, we have positive moments and negative moments. The programs will analyze a huge database with different musical styles and create hybrid genres. Musicians will be curators and editors rather than creators, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. There will be a big question about authorship who is the creator, AI or human? These questions are already there with all of us. I think the music will become more interactive. People will not just be passive listeners, but will be able to change the music in real time, changing the tempo, rhythm, instrumental. As a result, the music can be tuned to a person's biometric data like pulse, remote, and create music for treatment, improved concentration, or anything else. And I think in the future, music created only by humans can become rare and appreciated as any new experience, unlike mass produced by AI. Yes. And now, of course, AI can help us. AI can automate the routine. This will allow the composer to focus on creativity. For example, some plugins and sequences or music programs already have neural networks and help to mix music.
I think you have touched a very important subject at the moment when you said, like how now people will be able to change the music within being more interactive with the music, right?
Yes.
And the music will be more interactive towards them. And I think that this is a big difference from classical music or traditional music coming towards a more modernized music. And I feel like a big difference and an important step over here is before and even now, an artist controls the crowd, like even when you go to clubs, let's say, for example, the DJ is controlling how the crowd interacts or how aggressive the crowd becomes, how much intensive the crowd becomes. But when the crowd is controlling the music, that will be the new thing. I personally feel maybe it still exists, but because I don't go to clubs, so I wouldn't know. But what I have seen, what I have heard is the skills of an artist is when they are controlling the crowd, and that makes a big difference. And that is why a lot of DJs, a lot of musicians get more money or they become more famous because they are attracting the crowd. And that is why, like, when you go to a concert, when you see, like, okay, who is going to be performing, and if it is a big name, that, okay, this concert will be successful because the artist knows how to attract the crowd. It's not that the crowd is attracting the music is attracting the crowd.
I can say more about classical music in our days and AI. There are some problem with AI in classic music. Okay, for example, in 2021, Beethoven's 10th Symphony was completed with the help of AI, which the composer didn't complete. And when I was given a lecture to school children, I gave them a fragment of the symphony to listen, and then I asked them, who do you think made this? And everyone answered Beethoven. But music critics said that it was far from Beethoven. And there is a reason why. In classical music, it's important to understand different musical structures. In modern music, different sound, electronic music, it's usually verse, chorus, bridge sometimes, intro, outro. It's very simple form. And in the classical, it's sonata form, two-part form, three-part form with different subspecies. The form is rondo sonata, and others. Training AI network to these structures is hard process, and it's unknown whether there will be enthusiasts for such work. And this is another difficulty. In addition, music archives have a lot of information, especially about folk music, which is not digitized because it's unpopular information. So are limited in this information for now. But maybe in future will something change. You know.
Before we end our conversation, I have to ask you, if you had a chance to travel back in time and attend one composer's live performance, maybe you can even meet him, who would it be and why?
If I answer you seriously,
Yes.
I would like to choose not a specific composer, but an era.
Okay.
For example, ancient Egypt or Middle Age, because we don't know much about this music before the advent of musical notation. We can mostly only guess what it sounded like. I would take a recorder with me and record something and be the first person of our time to hear it. And maybe I would have gotten a lot of money for this story.
So you expect to go back in time and then come back also?
For sure.
I was only giving you one way ticket. You can only go back, not come back.
No, I didn't know this. No, I don't want it.
Thank you so much, Helena. I really appreciate your time. And it was really nice talking to you, getting your perspective. And we will definitely do another recording soon to explore more on the musical side and connection to music with us personally. And I feel like in the next time, I also want to touch the psychological side of music as well, because I feel we have touched a lot about how music is affecting us as humans, our culture, and we are missing the most important perspective from the psychological side. And I feel like understanding psychological side of music is very important. And coming from a teacher who is teaching other kids maybe, and maybe adults even, maybe in future me. So it is very important to understand how the psychology works as a teacher and as a student as well.
I need to say something.
Yes, if you want
Not,
to.
not about music. In Russia, we sometimes say sorry for my French when someone swears. But in my case, I would like to say sorry for my English.
Thank you so much, Helena. I really
Thank you, you
appreciate your
too.
time.
Yes.
And
thank you.
see you soon.
See you soon.